Okay, I'm having genuine fun reading this. Now, yeah, he's correct with some things, like because I did take a lot of input from Babylon 5 in terms of how certain K level civilizations do react. In Typhus case, it's very much we're just so used to doing things these ways, we haven't even really thought about it. That's the reason why I added the Bardaxians to do a kind of contrast, because they are the youngest race on that Council of Five by far, because their population gets an overabundance of belt wielders chosen, for the Defender Corps. So by proxy, they had to include Bardax in the overall movers and shakers of everything. Plus, you know what? Space dogs. Space dogs are adorable. But, yeah. But I was hoping to get across some of what he talked about in Book Zero, just how constrictive Uplift Protocol is, because again, all these guys have done this in such a way for so long that they don't think that there's much of a like. Is there a more ideal way to do these things? Now, Valcor and his wife, the Queen Consort, aka Diamonds, you'll find that out in Book 1 once you get to it. But they are fighting under a very constrained, we have to do this kind of role mentality. Now, most normal Typherians, they just do their 9 to 5, and you know what? They don't really worry about the big moving and shaking politics wise. And but that's most of that stuff's going to change with season 2. But there's quite a few Typherians that are chafing under these rules, um, which is why the most rebellious of them are in some ways at Area 51, but you'll see how that stuff plays out. But I'm glad that the smug angle came across, because the Vorlons in the Shadows acted just as smug towards the younger races, like, oh, do as we say, not as we do. You know, and not to say that like all of them are like that, but I really wanted to hit home just how kind of ass backwards some of Uplift Protocol was in terms of like what it's supposed to do. Um, Once you see humanity moving out into that sphere to really see how some stuff is set up, they're gonna be like, well, instead of judging whether or not somebody's ready, let them kind of make their own leap, that sort of thing. You'll see how it plays out. But this whole setup, this whole review, it's fun. And yes, they're not nearly as bad as the Citadel Council in Mass Effect. Like, that's why people like Yolanda are trying to change things. But a lot of the shove is going to come from Eliza and a few other people later. Because sad to say, like if a Typherian child can't do the whole mental talk to their parents thing, like if they're hobbled like Eliza is, then they're considered broken. And the thing is, Gino has become very um how shall we say, naturalized to Earth kind of setups, where she, as the thing goes on, and as they get closer and closer to where, like, oh wait, my children have to be recognized and we have to go do the whole rigmarole at home. um yeah, you'll find when I finally have Eliza step foot on Typha, and with her dual heritage and everything out in the open, um yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, again, her Typherian grandparents are rebelling in their own way. But you'll see more and more of that as Book 1 goes on. It's just a case of, I just took a simple idea of like, yeah, what would happen if this extremely advanced race, and there's quite a few of them, they're very focused on the overall, like, we can't let the universe come to an end kind of stuff. But what happens when other stuff is stepped on in the process? I mean, most of them have their heart genuinely in the right place, but they only see like one way of defending something. And you'll see at the end of book 2 basically, and going into book 3, as because yeah, humanity is gonna get to step up on the greater scheme of things in book 3, because they're legitimately going to help another advanced civilization, find their footing again. And the thing is, the Markav people, at least the ones that were still present, inside other avenues, shall we say, depending on how far you've gotten in the story, they're going to be a lot more sympathetic to what's happening, with humanity. Because, see, that's another thing why Uplift Protocol had such a hard time with Earth, because you had this developing people, then you had, based on book 1, you'll see the Bardaxians got actually involved in the mix a lot sooner than most realize, because they thought Earth was one of their long-lost colonies because the presence of wolves on the planet. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I just like the fact that yep, and really there's other things, like, yeah, there's the reason why Kronos is only on a little bit of the initial book is because it's just to build the background information for now. The first big main scuffle is going to be in book 2 with, Thoth doing his things, and you'll get I am going to slowly build up more of Thoth's backstory in number 2. I did introduce some of it in the Avalon issue of book 1, around, issue 24. But that's the thing with, God, what is it, like with, doing the serial. I'm kind of taking quite a few pages from Babylon 5 in terms of, you'll see bits and pieces more of the story as we go along, and you'll get to see more of what shaped the bad guys and what they're doing. But I just wanted to give a sense of like this is the overall setup of the universe, and then we'll see how humanity and their supers and slash demis come into the mix and shake up the whole status quo, that sort of thing. Yep. And yes, but the main thing, he did catch on to a lot of things that I wanted to showcase out of this story. Because so many people do have their stories that are so villain specific, that's the reason why the villains in my story are a little bit into the background, because I really wanted to develop a lot of the heroes first. And to me, I see the villains as more like instigators, so they will try to do things and then the heroes have to react and solve the problem. But yeah, slowly but surely you'll get to see a little bit more of like how the villains are developed and what they do, because we still got quite a bit of this series to go along. I would say things will probably even out a little bit more with some more of the villain points later on. It's just a whole lot of world to explore, and I've just never been one as a writer to really give the villains the prime time as much. Like it to me, like just with Babylon 5, having the villains show up every once in a while kept the clear compare and contrast going between them and the protagonist. Like, Bester didn't show up much, but when he did, he made an impact by, having stuff, wheel around some more. Again, it's just a personal preference as a writer, because I've seen so much stuff that constantly hammers home more villain, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it is true. Like right now with book 0, the villains are kind of a non-entity, because they're kind of a little bit of a framing device of like the overall big conflict. With book 0, I really wanted to build up Eliza and her family and their background, so that way when some more of the villainous aspects come out, of them reacting to things, you get more of a sense of Eliza and her family and her crew and everything. So, he does definitely hit the nail on the head with quite a few things. But yeah, let's see. What else? But yes. And yes, there is. If you are a dog person, you will love all the dog things in my book. And there's even more dog things in book one. Yeah. But yeah. Yep. And yes, there are quite a few mysteries that are set up. Like my thing for reading is like I like having little mysteries that lead me along to bigger ones, and eventually, stuff will be revealed as it goes. And that's ultimately what keeps me reading most times. Um, and I'm just glad that he found a lot of the heroic characters likable. Because again, that's the one thing I like to hammer home with my own reading and writing. It's like I want to make likable characters. And I will link his blog here below if you want to see his review. And yes, as far as Thoth goes, you'll basically find out more in book 2 and book 3 also what Thoth did to be like dubbed the Mad King of Atlantis. It, it's pretty fun. But Thoth's actual origin is I find it pretty fun too. You'll get to see a little bit of that with book 1, and mostly book 2 and book 3, because even though Thoth is going to let's say well, he'll serve his purpose, yes, but you'll also get to see some more stuff spinning out of book 3 that will, affect things a little bit longer down the line. Because even though Babylon 5 is a TV show, if you do look at it from like a story beat and everything else, it's like once you start writing, you can't help but look at things like that, and you're like, oh man, that's a really interesting way to do things. Because you can translate some of that stuff to books, to see how certain things play out and how to do certain arcs. And it's no bad thing to take a lot of influence from stuff you love. It's like, I don't see that as a bad takeaway anyways. So there you go. Oh boy. But yeah. But yes, see, I'm just glad that this part of Uplift Protocol got to him. The best part about Uplift Protocol is the setting. It's a nice and happy kind of place. The conflicts still exist, but overall you want to be a part of that world. Yeah. And yep, I don't want to do subversion. I'd rather do superversive. But yes, I just wanted people genuinely helping each other, and aliens that do try to help humanity become even better. And sorely missing in much fiction is loving marriages with healthy families. Yes. And that's the thing. Yeah. But yes, you will get to see the villains be more of a threat in book 1. In fact, some parts of what happened to some heroes, because some of the heroes are much longer lived, even on the human side of things, because of magic and other stuff like that. And the fact that the Markav stuff does still play a role with Earth. They can't exactly, let's say, Uplift Protocol can't exactly, basically cut the Markav off, because Earth is legitimately their home also. You'll see how it plays out later. I'm just glad that somebody's having just as much fun with this thing as I am. And that's all that really matters. I could have 10 people, I could have 100, I could have 1,000, and I would still have fun doing this. Plus, not gonna lie, Isaac Arthur's channel gives me a lot of fun ideas too. Guy really knows his stuff, so I'll also link that below with this video. But yes, smug aliens. Yep. But yeah, see, the thing is, it is a massive breach of rules, because eventually, if you're too close to a certain planet, like, it's always gonna happen. But again, I go through with more of this with book 1. The Bardaxians have been doing some shenanigans even before the word go. You'll see that in some of the conversations they have with each other, especially with the Typherian you know, ambassador from Bardax or something like heals the rifts. Oh, that's one smart cookie. She knows things. Yes, she does. That's a good doggo. Very smart doggo. Uh huh. Yep. And yes, you'll find that he does make some good pertinent points, but I also did it to showcase that while Uplift Protocol has helped all these races out for a while, it it, it doesn't ultimately cover everything that's needed, which is why by the end of the series you'll see when you're reading stuff like especially from the Sleeping in Starlight memoir that you'll see how even certain other time periods are like, well, there's rules and then there's rules. So it also kind of showcases that the thing is Gino wasn't even expecting to be able to have Eliza or anything else like that, but even she finds out later, even via book one, it's like, oh crap, a what now? Oh no, okay then. Yeah, so even Gino herself was changed for certain reasons. It's kind of like one of those overall themes. It's like, can you deal with the fact that you've already meddled, and how much more will you meddle? Because that was kind of like an idea that I saw with Babylon 5. Like the Vorlons were saying, oh yeah, choose like our way or the Shadows way, but realize XYZ vis-a-vis, like, oh, you're already interfering with the younger race's development by making telepaths to fight the Shadows. Did you really give humanity a choice in that? Not really. And that ended up changing humanity's society. So, yeah, it's like a push and pull. It's like, because, even brighter, optimistic stories can still have different themes in them, of like where the reader can decide to see what things do they want to catch in on and what things do they just want to read for fun. I'm not basically I'm trying not to basically put a hammer over people's head like you got to think this way. Like, no, I for the most part just want to make a fun story. But just like Babylon 5, you can put stuff in there that will be like, people will be like, oh, is it this way or is it that way? Again, you could that's what the fun of reading is. If you're not hitting people over the head with things, then they can come to their own conclusions, and that's fine too. Um, but yeah, you'll also see with book one as you continue on. Gino can't acknowledge her marriage to her husband, like from the uplifted side of things. So her actual identity, as her actual human identity, is a pretty close kept secret. Only a handful of people really know. Even Typha at large doesn't realize she married a human. They all think she married somebody that's working out of the Utasa sector for Admiral Alonza. And yeah, again, you'll see more of that in book one. Stuff does come to light, and but I still think it's fun that the world building that I did was good enough to where people want to keep going. It's like, yay, huzzah! And yes, I do have Doc on purpose there to be like, wow, these rules suck. It's like, did you happen to look at the fine print of these things? So yeah. Um, that and the reason why the Bardaxians meddle a little bit with Earth's dogs is because they see Earth's dogs as their cousins, and then once you see a little bit more of the origin of what happened of Bardax, meeting certain things, yes, it there's a reason why the dog issues do really well. Woohoo! Oh my. So yeah, I personally I do enjoy this review. Eventually you'll see with book one, like I set it up to where uh, certain plot elements happen and other things are resolved, but it also opens up another can of worms. But you'll see that Lady Susandra is just as kind of chafed by certain restrictions, because a lot of these guys that are seeing what Eliza does, even though it caused a lot of like memory blockages, they're like, you know what, maybe, just maybe, Uplift Protocol needs to be updated a bit. Oh my. But yeah, I'll let you guys look at the rest of this review for yourself. It's just, yeah, that's ultimately, I think, what most writers do want. They want readers to come to their own conclusions, or have a grand old guessing game. So have a good day, everybody.